FBI estimates in the United States alone at any given time there are 25 to 50 active serial killers. Now, imagine across the world. Ridgway was born in Salt Lake City, Utah on February 18, 1949, and raised in Seatock, Washington. His father, Thomas Newton Ridgway, worked as a bus driver who often complained about the prostitutes who frequented the streets on his route. His mother, Mary Rita Ridgway, ruled the house and was physically and mentally abusive towards Gary and also to his two brothers, Gregory and Thomas Jr., and even her husband. Gary was a frequent bedwetter and also tortured animals, locking a cat into a refrigerator until it died on one occasion. He would also shoot birds with a BB gun with his brothers. Having an estimated IQ of only 82, he did poorly in school. He even had to redo a single school year twice before he could get passing grades. In 1963, aged 14, Gary attempted to kill a 6-year-old boy by stabbing him, but was unsuccessful and was never caught for the act. He claimed to have committed his first murder when he was a teenager, drowning a boy by wrapping his legs around him while swimming and holding him underwater until he drowned. At the age of 18, Gary enlisted with the Navy and served on board a supply ship for Vietnam. Shortly after graduating high school and before being shipped off, he married a girlfriend named Claudia Barrows, but they divorced within only a year because both had extramarital affairs. Ridgway applied for a police officer but failed. Instead, he found work as a car painter at a truck factory in Bellingham, Washington. Ridgway married for the second time in December 1973 to one Marcia Winslow. Their union was also brief and ended for the same reason, though they did conceive a son, Matthew, together. He was born in 1975 and maintained a relationship with his father, who was granted visitation rights after the divorce. Winslow later claimed that Gary once placed her in a chokehold. During his second marriage, Ridgway became highly religious and spent a lot of time reading the Bible, sometimes aloud and at work, and sometimes moved to tears by church sermons. He would also go door to door for his Pentecostal church. In a rather sharp contrast to this, he often solicited sexual favors from prostitutes and had a near insatiable sex drive, demanding sex from his girlfriends and wives several times a day. Shortly after Winslow left him, he was arrested for trying to choke a prostitute near an airport. In April of '82, he was also arrested for soliciting an undercover officer posing as a prostitute. Around 1985, Ridgway began dating one Judith Mawson and married her in 1988. They were still married at the time of his arrest and shared a loving, intimate relationship. He stated in an interview that he felt less of an urge to kill while they were together, which would explain why he killed so few women after they started dating. In 1998, Thomas Ridgway passed away after a long struggle with Alzheimer's. Mary Ridgway died of cancer 3 years later.
The driver's license on one side, my ID, and then when I showed and then the next picture was my son, so that was, and in the vehicle I had always had some, not always, but had some of my son's stuff in it, that he left in there, or some Star Wars or something like that, so it was like a family setting. In your vehicle? Yeah, so every time I opened up my wallet, there would be a picture of my son on one side, behind my ID, here's my ID, I hide my name, flip it over, and there's my ID and my son's picture on the back side, and they'd see that, and that would lower any big defenses. And kids' toys, 8-year-old toys on the dash.
The only thing that would be better than that would be to have your son in the car with you. That would be a incredible ruse.
That happened once.
What happened?
It was July 18th, I think it was my brother's birthday. That weekend I picked up a woman on back highway, and Matthew was next to me in the seat, and she hopped in, and I took her over to in the South Airport area, and took her into an area, and my son was there, and I killed her.
Ridgway committed his first confirmed serial murders in the 1980s, most of them in 82 and 83. He was brought in for questioning as a person of interest when the first bodies were found and took a polygraph test twice, once in 82 and once in 86, passing both times, and was a suspect during the entire investigation. He came close to being arrested a few times. In 85, a woman accused him of grabbing her in a chokehold. In 82, and in 83, a witness saw victim Marie M. Melvar get into his car. In October of 1984, Ted Bundy, who was on death row in Florida at the time, contacted the Green River Task Force and offered his personal insights on the case in the area. He was interviewed a few times, and nothing useful, more confessions of his own murders. The police learned from several prostitutes in the Green River Killer's usual area that they had seen him driving on the Strip, which was the route he took to get to work. It was also noted that he had been reported as absent from work on every single occasion that a victim had disappeared. In 1987, the police searched his house and took samples of his hair and saliva. Because there wasn't enough evidence to make an arrest, he was released. Ridgway's involvement in the investigation led his co-workers to nickname him Green River Gary. As the years went by, more remains of his victims were found. The most recent finding was on December 21st, 2010. In 1991, the Green River Task Force was reduced to a single person, Tom Jensen. For a decade afterwards, the case remained completely dormant. During that time, Ridgway is only confirmed to have committed a single murder. It wasn't until 2001 that the big break in the case finally came, when the murders were reinvestigated with a task force consisting of 30 people, including forensic and DNA experts. A DNA comparison of the semen found on the victim's body and the samples taken from Ridgway in 87 was made using more recent technology and came back a match. Ridgway was consequently arrested, charged with the murders of Opal Mills, Marcia Chapman, Carol Christensen, and Cynthia Hines. The first three were connected to him by DNA evidence, and the fourth by circumstantial. 3 more charges, those of Wendy Caulfield, Deborah Bonner, and Deborah Estes, were added when the investigators found traces of a kind of spray paint Ridgway used at work, which they found on the victim's remains. In 2003, Ridgway made a plea bargain with the prosecution, agreeing to make a full confession and help the authorities find the remains of his victims in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. In total, he was convicted of 49 murders. He confessed to a total of 71, though some estimate that he may have killed more than 90. At one point during the legal proceedings, when the victims' families gave testimonies, Ridgway broke into tears and told them that he was sorry. As part of his plea bargain, the investigators began driving him between dump sites where he would direct them to the bodies which hadn't been previously found. He is currently serving his sentence at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla, Washington.